our tour of historic Germany and Austria. In May 2025, I had the fantastic opportunity to travel to Germany and Austria and host a group tour with fellow history lovers. Together, we explored the hidden history of Munich, were enchanted by Neuschwanstein and Hohenschwangau castles, journeyed through the stunning Alps to Salzburg, where we toured sights from the Sound of Music, picturesque lake towns, and enjoyed a decadent meal at the world's oldest restaurant. We waltzed into the history of the Hapsburgs in Vienna with a night at the opera and visits to Schoenbrunn and Hofburg Palaces to marvel at the staterooms and crown jewels, ending our trip where the Hapsburgs ended theirs, at the Imperial Crypt. So strap on your lederhosen or lace up your dirndl and join me as we explore Germany and Austria. Stay to the end where I will announce where we'll be heading in 2026. Day 1. I arrived bright, early, and tired to Munich, dropped my bags at the hotel, and made the short walk into the old town. After a delicious coffee and cheese pastry at a sidewalk cafe, I was ready to explore. The city was established in 1158, when Heinrich the Lion, Duke of Saxony, seized control of the valuable salt trade by burning down his neighbors' bridges. A new town grew up around his bridge, now the only one on the Isar River. It was named Munich, or München, meaning home of monks, for the nearby monastery. A young monk, nicknamed the Munich Child, appears on the city's coat of arms. Heinrich backed his cousin, Friedrich Barbarossa, to become Holy Roman Emperor. When Friedrich succeeded, he named Heinrich Duke of Bavaria. But the cousins fell out. Heinrich was exiled, and the emperor handed Munich to another supporter, Otto von Wittelsbach. His blue and white lozenge flag became the flag of Bavaria. The Wittelsbach dynasty ruled until 1918. While walking around the quiet morning streets and marveling at the architecture, I popped into All Saints' Church, built in 1478, and Assam Church, an absolute marvel of Baroque meets Rococo style, completed in 1746. While much of northern Germany followed Martin Luther into the Protestant Reformation, southern Germany remained Catholic, so Bavaria is culturally connected to its Catholic neighbor to the south, Italy. Italian Renaissance, Baroque, and Rococo styles are found across Bavaria. I wandered into Marienplatz, just in time to see the famous Glockenspiel sound off for the first of its 2 daily shows. Added to the new town hall in 1908, its 43 bells and 32 life-size figures tell 2 stories from Munich's history. The marriage of Duke Wilhelm V to Renata of Lorraine in 1568. The happy couple watch a joust between knights representing their realms. The Bavarian in blue and white always wins. Below is the Cooper's Dance, commemorating the day in 1517 when the city's barrel makers celebrated the end of the plague and called the people out of quarantine. A real-life Cooper's Dance is still repeated every 7 years. The last one was in 2019. I stopped by the tranquil fountains in Marienplatz, visited St. Peter's Church, then wandered through the outdoor market, purchasing delectable fruit, meat, cheese, and olives. I had a lovely lunch at a rooftop cafe overlooking the market and square. Then I wandered back to my hotel to spend an evening picnicking and recovering from jet lag. Day 2. After a luxurious lie-in and decadent hotel breakfast, I headed down to the lobby to meet some of the travelers who had just arrived. Most were tired from overnight flights, but Duchess rallied and joined me for an adventure to Nymphenburg Palace, a 20-minute tram ride away from the city. This was the Wittelsbach's summer residence, completed in 1675 by Prince Elector Ferdinand Maria. It is named the Palace of Nymphs, and many of the sumptuous murals depict scenes from Greek mythology. Highlights for me included a hall with detailed paintings of the front and back of various royal palaces, and this portrait of Karl VII, Holy Roman Emperor, the only time the Hapsburg dynasty was interrupted in 3.5 centuries. It was at the hands of this Wittelsbach. Finally, I had to see the famous Gallery of Beauties. 38 portraits from the mid-1800s, depicting the most beautiful women of Bavaria, so judged by famous horn dog King Ludwig I. Some were his mistresses, including notorious dancer Lola Montez. Some were court ladies, and some were peasants. After a stroll through the serene sculpture garden, a tea and an ice cream, we headed back to the hotel. I welcomed my 20 travelers in the lobby, handed out this year's shirts, which include Emperor Charlemagne, Maria Theresa, Ludwig II of Bavaria, and Empress Elizabeth of Austria. We made the short walk to Münchner Stuben, a gastropub-esque beer hall with traditional offerings. I enjoyed a Schwarzbier and schnitzel, and we shared large trays of Kaiserschmarren, a traditional shredded pancake served with fresh fruit and fruit sauces. I had a wonderful time reconnecting with the Scotland travelers and getting to know the new additions to the History Tea Time Travelers, or Tea Timers for short. One of the newbies said she was worried about fitting in, but the group made her feel welcome right away. It is incredible to spend time with people who share a common interest in history. Conversation is easy, delightful, and informative. One of the many things we discussed was how many different words we had for the country we were in. In the US, we booked flights to Germany. Patricia from Portugal was in Alemannia. Enrico from France was in Alumani. And Voco and Emilia from Finland were in Saxa. Meanwhile, people who live here call it Deutschland. With so many different tribes occupying this area in ancient times, different neighbors named it for the tribe they most often dealt with. Those in the west had relations with the Alemanni people. Nordic countries were closer to the Saxon tribe. And Anglophones used the name Julius Caesar gave the Germania tribe. But Deutschland comes from the old German word for land of the people. Day 3. We fueled up for a bicycle tour of Munich. The group split into 2 with a local guide each to show us around the city's historic sites. Some of the travelers, myself included, are not exactly speed racers, but the city is flat and super bike-friendly, so it was not a problem. We saw the Wittelsbach Fountain, the obelisk in memory of 3,000 Bavarian soldiers who fell during Napoleon's Russian campaign in 1812. Supporting Napoleon got Maximilian I promoted from Prince Elector to King of Bavaria. But I'm not sure it was worth it to those who froze to death. Ludwig I's second son, Otto, was elected King of Greece in 1832. Greece took the colors of its flag from the flag of Bavaria. Otto's father became a total Grecophile and erected neoclassical buildings around Königsplatz, which still house his extensive art collection. We saw several museums and the Führerbau, Nazi headquarters from 1933 to 37, where Adolf Hitler had his office. The guide pointed out damage spots called wounds of memory. It is important to the Germans to remember the horrors of the Holocaust so that they are never repeated. I requested that we stop by the White Rose Memorial, which honors Hans and Sophie Scholl and other students who distributed flyers protesting the Nazi regime. They were executed for it by guillotine in 1943. Finally, we rode through the lush English Garden, a forested city park where locals were enjoying the sun. We had lunch at the Chinese Tower Beer Garden. It was originally built in 1789, though like much of Munich, it was destroyed in bombings during World War II and was reconstructed in 1952. I had cheese spätzle and a bratwurst. Some more confident riders enjoyed a Radler, named for the German word for cyclist. This popular mix of lager and sparkling lemonade was invented in the 1920s by a tavern keeper who didn't have enough beer to quench the thirst of a large group of cyclists. The refreshment allows cyclists to get home from the beer garden relatively sober. We rode back to the old town to return our bikes, then had some leisure time. With the group, there's always someone to do things with, if you want to. I went with the group to check out some souvenir shops, including Eli Seidel, the best chocolate in Munich, according to our guide. He did not lie. We also went to St. Michael's Church and paid €3 to go down into the Royal Crypt. There we saw the tombs of Duke Wilhelm V, King Ludwig II, and several other Wittelsbachs. After a rest at the hotel, those who wanted to, which was most, headed back into town to have dinner at the famous Hofbrauhaus. Founded in 1589 by Duke Wilhelm V, this beer hall is one of the oldest and most popular in Munich. Like many cities of the time, Munich had poor sanitation, and water could be deadly. The brewing process not only sanitized the water, but added crucial nutrients. Beer was hailed as liquid bread. On October 12, 1810, Crown Prince Ludwig of Bavaria married Teresa of Saxe-Hildburghausen. The couple threw a party for their people, where the local libation flowed. Bavarians had so much fun that they've repeated the festival every year since. Today, Munich's Oktoberfest draws 7 million visitors annually. Next, we went on a ghost walk. Our guide told us eerie stories of Krampus, witch executions, and Frauenkirche, the most iconic building in Munich. Legend says that in 1488, the architect made a deal that the devil would finance the construction if the church was built with no windows. When Satan came to inspect, he was fooled from the foyer, as an optical illusion hid the windows behind columns. When he realized he had been tricked, the furious demon stomped his foot and vanished. The devil's footprint remains in the tile to this day. Day 4, we boarded a private coach for the 2-hour drive to Füssen at the base of the Alps. Hohenschwangau Castle was constructed on the hilltop foundation of the medieval fortress of the Knights of Schwangau, meaning Swan District. In 1833, King Maximilian II commissioned it as a summer hunting retreat. He filled the rooms with murals depicting medieval German folklore. There are also many family touches, which made this castle very enjoyable to be in. While growing up here, his son Ludwig was staring at the higher hilltop in the distance and dreaming of an even grander castle. Once king, Ludwig II began construction on Neuschwanstein, meaning New Swan Rock. He emptied the national coffers to build this fantasy fairy tale castle. And while it is spectacular, it cost him his throne. He only got to enjoy living here for 10 months. The government used the king's extravagance, though not his covert homosexuality, to declare him insane. Ludwig was taken into custody, and then he and his doctor were found floating in a lake. Their deaths remain a great royal mystery. Neuschwanstein was absolutely stunning and impeccably preserved. It is decorated with many of the same themes of medieval folklore and Byzantine grandeur as Hohenschwangau, but turned up to 11. However, it felt more like a movie set than an actual historic home. A climb up yet another hill and braving a hanging bridge was worth it for the spectacular view of the castle and valley below. Neuschwanstein was Walt Disney's inspiration for Sleeping Beauty's castle in Disneyland. Once back in Munich, I indulged in one of my favorite travel treats, going to a local grocery store and buying new foods to try. Exploring Scotland and Germany and Austria with incredible fellow history lovers has been such an amazing experience that I can't wait to do it again. I'm thrilled to announce that my next historic tour will be Spain. from May 12th to 20th, 2026. Join me for a magnificent 9-day journey through Madrid, Toledo, Cordoba, and Granada. We'll avoid the over-touristed areas and instead focus on Spain's heartland and its incredible royal history. We'll marvel at the Bourbon Royal Palace, the largest in Europe, walk in the footsteps of Philippe II at El Escorial, learn how 3 cultures melded and clashed in Toledo and Cordoba, and visit the Alhambra and the bones of Isabel and Fernando in Granada. In between expert-guided tours, we'll indulge in local cuisine, wander atmospheric streets, and soak up the culture. The trip includes welcome and farewell dinners, stays at 4-star boutique hotels, daily breakfasts, in-country transportation, entrance fees, and the invaluable insights of a local guide. Plus, I'll be there to share historic stories and fun facts. If you'd like to join me, then click the link in the description to book your spot on this historic adventure today. I can't wait to see you in Spain. Day 5, we boarded the train for Salzburg. The 2-hour ride through the mountains and the company were lovely. Appropriately, we were headed east as Austria, Österreich in German, means Eastern Realm, so dubbed by the Bavarians. Once in Salzburg, we broke for lunch. I went with the group to get delicious Ethiopian food. Then we had an orientation walk. Salzburg, meaning Salt Castle, has been an important location for salt mining since pre-Roman times. It has been ruled by archbishops since 798. All that salty money meant the prince archbishops of Salzburg were powerful figures in the Holy Roman Empire. These supposedly chaste men of the church were granted rather than inherited their thrones, though many had mistresses, including Wulf Dietrich von Reichenau, who built Maribel Castle for his mistress and their many children. Famed composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born here in 1756 and was employed in his youth by the archbishop. We stopped at First Confectioner to try the famous Mozartkugel, pistachio marzipan and nougat covered in dark chocolate. Then we took the funicular up the hill to Hohensalzburg, built by the more battle-hardened archbishops around 1077. The curtain wall afforded spectacular views of the town below. Back on the ground, we walked through St. Peter's Cemetery with gated catacombs which inspired the hiding scene in The Sound of Music. The oldest tombstone dates to 1288, but many of the markers are from the 20th century. That's because in Austria, graves are not purchased, they're rented. If there's no family left to pay the rent, a new corpse can take up residence. Earlier occupants are either evicted into a mass grave or are decomposed enough to be buried on top of. We went to dinner in the world's oldest restaurant, St. Peter Stiftskulinarium. First mentioned in a letter to Charlemagne in 803, the monastery gave out food for free to religious pilgrims. While it's not free today, the decor is an elegant mix of historic charm and modern refinement, and the menu is sumptuous and traditional Austrian dishes. Steaks were popular, as was the traditional Knöckel soufflé. This was many people's favorite meal of the trip. After dinner, we took a leisurely stroll through the peaceful town. The doors of Mirabel Palace were flung wide for a concert, so a few of us snuck in to see the spectacular stairwell. Day 6. We boarded another private coach for a tour of the sights from the 1965 film The Sound of Music. The Rodgers and Hammerstein musical was based on the life of Maria von Trapp, a novice turned governess turned stepmother to 7 orphan children. The family did escape the Nazis, but on a train to Italy rather than walking across the mountains. They became a popular touring vocal act in the United States. While The Sound of Music is one of the most popular movies in the world, it's not highly regarded by Austrians. Our local guide told us that when her children first saw it, they asked if people really thought they went around yodeling in lederhosen all the time. Scenes from the Do Re Mi number were filmed in Mirabel Gardens. Exteriors of the Von Trapp house were shot at Schönbrunn Palace, while the boat scene took place at Leopoldskron Palace. Taylor made a splendid pinafore just like Maria's. I wore a vintage dress reminiscent of the green and white curtains turned play clothes the Von Trapp children wear. But it was rather chilly, so I tucked it into jeans. We saw the 16 going on 17 gazebo, all dolled up for a wedding. Then we headed for the hills and Salzburg Lake District, filled with picture-perfect little towns. We stopped in St. Wolfgang and had a lovely lunch on the water. Then in Mondsee, where we visited Nürnberg Abbey, where Maria's wedding was filmed. We had time to walk around, visit shops, and get a coffee. Then back to Salzburg, where we were free for dinner. Then we stopped at the hotel's rooftop bar for a cocktail to celebrate Jenny, Tiwa, and Kyra's birthdays. Day 7. The 3-hour train journey to Vienna flew by, with alpine scenery and great conversation. I worked on this embroidery of the Imperial coat of arms of Austria. The double-headed eagle has been used by many cultures dating to the Bronze Age. It was adopted by the Hapsburgs in the 1400s to represent their twin empires in Austria and Spain. We arrived at our hotel and dispersed to eat at local cafes. We took the subway a short distance into the heart of Vienna, or Wien in German, which means white village in the ancient Celtic language. In the 1st century, the Romans took it over as a military fort. During the Middle Ages, the city on the Danube was the seat of the Dukes of Austria. In 1278, the Hapsburg family rose out of Switzerland and claimed the ducal title. They continued their rise to the top. In 1452, Friedrich von Hapsburg got himself crowned Holy Roman Emperor, launching 3.5 centuries of Hapsburg rule. Before this, the empire didn't have a set capital, but the Hapsburgs made Vienna the capital of the empire and a hub for art, music, and learning. We went inside the spectacular St. Stephen's Cathedral, completed in 1365. The Gothic-turned-Baroque structure has witnessed numerous imperial weddings and funerals over the centuries. We marveled at the elegant old-world architecture and the gilded pest column, erected to commemorate a 1679 plague epidemic, ending at Hofburg Palace, the emperor's official residence. There we saw the stables of the famous Spanish riding school. A few of us went to Vienna's renowned cafes, including Café Central and Café Mozart. I tried the chocolate hazelnut cake, which was delectable, and the famous Zuckertorte, which was a bit dry and disappointing. Then back to the hotel to get all dressed up for a night at the Vienna State Opera. Tickets went on sale a month in advance and sold out fast. I had to get up at 4 a.m. U.S. time, but managed to snag 14 tickets for everyone who wanted to go. It was well worth the effort for this once-in-a-lifetime evening out. We arrived early to take pictures, enjoy a drink at the bar, and marvel at the gorgeous historic venue. We had great seats in the balcony for 77 euros each. Coatcheck rented lovely opera glasses for €1, and every seat had a small screen with translation in the language of your choice, so the opera was easy to follow. We saw Il Trovatore, or The Troubadour, a classic tale of love, vengeance, and witch-burning, written in 1853 by Giuseppe Verdi. Leonora's aria blew me away, as did the most familiar song, the Anvil Chorus. I've never seen curtain calls go on for so long. What a magical night. Day 8. we took the subway to Schoenbrunn Palace, originally a hunting lodge purchased in 1569 by Emperor Maximilian II. He named it Schoenbrunn, or Beautiful Spring, after the artisanal well on the land. Empress Maria Theresa received it as a wedding gift in 1736. She transformed it into the 1,441-room, Baroque masterpiece summer palace it is today. The sumptuous staterooms went on forever, but they didn't get boring as each was decorated so uniquely. And it's hard to get too much chandeliers, gilded carvings, and gobsmacking historic paintings. I was especially psyched to see Maria Theresa with her family, by Martin von Maytens in the flesh. Some travelers enjoyed the gardens as well, but I was too busy nerding out in the staterooms. After lunch in the cafe, several of us decided to spend our free time at the Hofburg Palace. At 2.5 million square feet, it's the second largest palace in the world after the Louvre. Hofburg, meaning Castle of the Court, has been the seat of power since 1279, but several wings have been added since. There are several museums within the complex. We chose the Imperial Treasures first. Room after room of dramatically lit crown jewels and ceremonial robes dazzled the eye, paired with coronation paintings of emperors actually wearing them. Most thrilling were the imperial crown of the Holy Roman Empire, made in the late 9th century, and the crown of the Austrian Empire, made in 1606. The former was used to crown numerous emperors. But in 1806, Napoleon decimated the empire and forced Francis II to abdicate. The final Holy Roman Emperor was downgraded to merely Emperor of Austria. After that, the second crown was used. Next, we visited the Sissi Museum. Empress Elizabeth, the wife of Emperor Franz Josef, is an incredibly popular figure in Austria. She is sometimes described as their Princess Diana. Worldwide interest in the tragic beauty has been enhanced by the popular historic drama, The Empress. Check out my video about her life. It was a treat to see many of her gowns, portraits, personal items, and jewels, including her famous diamond hair stars. I wore 2 reproductions to the opera the night before. Even the death mask made after her shocking assassination. The museum included several 19th century staterooms where Elizabeth slept, did gymnastics, bathed, and had her long hair carefully combed. After a rest, we all went out for our farewell dinner at Maria Helfabrau, a great neighborhood restaurant serving local Viennese fare. I enjoyed a Wiener Schnitzel with a salad and a beer, then finished with a fabulous warm milk strudel. I got to have a moment with everyone to ask them about their favorite part of the trip.
I think my favorite part of the trip was going to all the castles and most notably Neuschwanstein. I love that it looked so colorful and so medieval-y, and I just love castles.
Being with all the fellow history lovers and getting to laugh, joke, share knowledge, play dorky games like who's your favorite wife of Henry VIII and why. Only history people can do that. As far as the trip itself, I had an amazing time at Schoenbrunn Palace. The garden, the grounds, the building itself, such history, exquisitely beautiful. I cannot wait to come back and explore some more.
Neuschwanstein Castle and Schoenbrunn Palace, and be able to enjoy with everyone, and also the opera was a major highlight. Yes.
I loved all the camaraderie and getting to know everyone, and I really loved everything Salzburg. All of the historical places that we saw, it was gorgeous. The Sound of Music tour. I could live in Salzburg.
Hanging out with a bunch of history nerds and just having Alaman tell us tons and tons of history lectures and interesting facts.
Going to Hohenschwangau castle. That was awesome. Never been there before, and it was cool to see a palace where like royals lived in, and it was a bit more of a private place for them. It was awesome. It looks beautiful. Architecturally stunning.
Going to Salzburg, I really liked the city because it had a lot of historical buildings that I liked, and the view from the fortress up top was really nice with the mountains in the background over the city.
The castles and the palaces. I especially like the Neuschwanstein castle. It was really beautiful and I really, really enjoyed it. But also the Munich bike tour, that was really cool.
It's been really exciting to be here for the past week with Lindsay and the group, seeing all the beautiful architecture that I've only seen in photos previously, like the Neuschwanstein Castle, Hohenschwangau, and Schoenbrunn Palace. And it's been a crazy adventure and really fun.
The Munich bike ride. I love learning about the history, not just about World War II, but about hidden secrets and things that don't look like, I guess they're kind of hidden from the human eye, but if you look at it really closely, you can see what the tour guide was talking about.
I loved all so much, but I have to go with the Sound of Music tour.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
It was a lot of fun to see everything from that movie. And it was beautiful.
Seeing those two castles back in Germany that I cannot pronounce, and I'm not going to try to pronounce, that was amazing. I love that part the most.
Munich bike tour, because I love riding bikes and I love nature. The best part of that Munich bike tour was the tourist garden and the food also. That's very, very good.
Ever since I found out that little detail that the castle, the Cinderella, what Disney inspired by was, what is it called?
Neuschwanstein.
Neuschwanstein. It was in Germany. I was like, sign me up, I want to go, and it lived up to all my expectations. I love the architecture, the paintings, the ornate detail, the opulence, the throne room. I'm here for all of that. Definitely my favorite castle, but also the other one that had all jewels.
Yes.
I love me some jewels. Because you see those in pictures so many times, and being able to see it in person, it was amazing.
To Neuschwanstein and
Hohenschwangau.
I particularly liked the bus ride up there because it was so scenic, and I got all of the best pictures that I could get.
My favorite part was the castles, getting to see everybody again, and the gift shops.
What was the favorite souvenir that you bought on this trip?
So I bought a little grandfather clock for my grandma because she's always wanted one.
Very sweet. My favorite part, aside from being immersed in royal history, was sharing it with such a lovely group of kind, intelligent, interesting, and curious people. I said a fond Auf Wiedersehen to those who had early flights. Then several of us went to Potion's cocktail bar. We enjoyed clever and stunning concoctions reminiscent of the magic of Hogwarts. We stopped in for one more drink at local hangout 1516 Brewing Company, then called it a night. Day 9, after a luxurious lie-in and breakfast, I headed out to explore Vienna a bit more on my own. Some travelers had moved on to share an Airbnb in Budapest, but Christina and Natalie were still in town, so we met up to check out the Imperial Crypt. Founded in 1618 by Anna Tyrol, wife of Emperor Matthias, the crypt is the final resting place of most Hapsburgs since. I plan to do a full video about who is buried here. Highlights include Maria Theresa and most of her 16 children, Franz Josef, Elizabeth, and their son Rudolf, Maximilian I, the short-lived Emperor of Mexico, Zita, the last Empress of Austria, whose husband Karl was forced to abdicate in 1918 following defeat in World War I, and her daughter-in-law, Yolande de Ling, who was the last Hapsburg entombed here in 2023. After checking out a few antique shops and having dinner, we headed to the hotel for an early night. Day 10, up at 5 a.m. for my flight back to the States. I am sad to leave majestic Germany and Austria and this incredible adventure behind. but I'll hold dear the memories and friends I've made here. If this trip looks like fun to you, then perhaps you'll join me on my next adventure. Then click the link in the description to book your spot on this historic adventure today. I can't wait to see you in Spain. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and check out my other history videos. You can also join my Patreon to support my work and get early access to all of my multi-part series. Thank you for watching.